Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Good Will Hunting, starring Matt Damon, Robin Williams, Minnie Driver, Ben Affleck, and Casey Affleck. Written by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, and directed by Gus Van Sant. Now, why am I late for this? Well, there's complicated reasons, let's say, but I'm leading this to The Last Duel, which was been out for a month. But we'll see how I like it by next time. So let's get into Good Will Hunting. This is the movie that won Ben Affleck and Matt Damon the Best Writer or Screenplay Oscar. And that's why I'm curious about this with The Last Duel. So let's get into the movie. We start with Will Hunting, played by Matt Damon, getting picked up by his friend Chucky, played by Ben Affleck, as he goes to high school, which is where he works as a janitor, or I should say at college. But he's a mathematician when he draws it out on his mirror at his apartment, and at school, on and at school on Professor Jared Lambeau's board, which takes 2 years. And Professor Lambeau, played by Stellan Skarsgård, is surprised that someone that's not a student, which is amazing in my opinion, as he gets beat up by Chucky, with Chucky Morgan, aka Morgan, played by Casey Affleck, who's Ben's brother, and Billy, played by Cole Hauser, as he picks a fight with a guy he went to kindergarten together with and gets arrested by the cops, which is a rough pass for Will, I'll admit. Professor Lambeau doesn't get who filled out on the board math problem that takes about 2 years to complete. While the writing in this is genius by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, Will, Chucky, Morgan, and Billy go to a bar, and Chucky flirts with a couple of girls, Skylar, played by Minnie Driver, and her friend Lydia, as they almost get into a bar fight with a village asshole, let's say, in her class, and he shows him up as Skylar wants to meet Will as she gets out. She gives him her number, and after that, they're outside asking the village asshole, "Do you like apples?" "Well, I got a number. How do you like them apples?" Which is probably the best comeback line Matt Damon has had in the movies for years to come. Professor Lambeau asks nicely to find out who the man that wrote on his board, and goes to the courtroom where he goes to parole and briefly in jail until Professor Lambeau talks with Will about bailing him out of jail of probation under two conditions: is to come see him every week to show his math work, and to see a therapist, as he agrees, and reluctantly, let's say. And both Damon and Affleck do a great job with the characters, as the audience gets to know them and like them at the end of the movie. And director Gus Van Sant does a great job with them acting with the performances, and that's why Matt Damon and Ben Affleck have the Best Screenplay Oscar. Will meets therapist after therapist as he disrespects every single one of them. As one of them, he sings Afternoon Delight, and Professor Lambeau decides to go with the best of the best, named Sean McGuire, played by Oscar winner from this movie, Robin Williams, as he's depressed to help someone but accepts Will to try him out, as they start with books and art, and brings up his wife as he chokes Will. And as for Robin Williams, I love the man, as he's funny as hell, but here he's supposed to play a serious role. And because he won the Best Supporting Actor Oscar for this performance, as he's the best thing about the movie as far as the performances are concerned, and I do miss him in general. I love Robin Williams, to be fair. Will and Skylar go out on their first date in a store and eating at a diner, and I really like them as a couple because their chemistry is very nicely done by these actors. Sean takes Will to a park to talk as a therapy session, and the scenes with them is magic to a perfect relationship between a therapist and a patient, as their relationship grows on me, and it's all thanks to the performances by Robin Williams and Matt Damon. Sean tells Will about how he lost his wife, and tells him how he thinks he's cocky, and tells him how hard life is in general, and the scene is fascinating on how Sean reads Will, and Will thinks about what he said in that scene and decides to go to therapy with him once a week. And this is genius storytelling by Affleck and Damon, Sean tells Will there's no smoking in his office and doesn't talk to Sean at first, while Will is smart at math but not good at talking about his feelings until he brings up a joke about how he was on a plane, and by he, I'm thinking it might be Sean, as he was on a plane with the speaker was still on, and they talk briefly about how Skylar is the perfect woman and doesn't want to mess that up, and Sean is afraid Will doesn't want to mess it up his style as he tells the story about the time his wife in the middle of the night farts in her sleep and how one time she farted so loudly it woke not only his wife but Sean up. And this dog, which made me crack up, that I'm thinking this is the best scene in the movie. And eventually he tells Will she's unfortunately dead but remembers the good stuff. And honestly, I love that scene in this movie. It cracks me up. Will goes to Skylar's dorm room as he asks her out on a date for the next day. And I do love their chemistry, but Will takes Skylar to the dog race as they talk about how many brothers Will has and jokes about how he has 12 brothers and continues talking with Sean about how he met his wife on the night of the biggest game at the Boston Red Sox baseball history to go to a bar to have drinks with her with his future wife at the time, which is a beautiful story that's beautifully told by Robin Williams and beautifully written by Affleck and Damon. Will and Skylar sleep together and perform sexual intercourse. In the next scene, Skylar meets Chucky, Morgan, and Billy while with Will at a restaurant. And this movie is well shot as we focus on what characters are saying as the camera focuses on them. Take notes, M. Night Shyamalan. Sean is at a bar with Professor Lambeau and Will as Will gets a job offering as a mathematician, and Sean believes he's not ready, while Professor Lambeau wants to get Will working on as a mathematician, while Chucky is at an interview as Will and blows which was amusing, while Will is on a date with Skylar and talk about Will's brain and how it works, and the dialogue between the two works absolutely great. Skylar asks Will to go to California with her to live with her as she's moving there, and she feels it, and Will can't, and they have an argument about how Skylar loves Will, but he's worried about how she won't love him back when she does, and he tells her he doesn't love her and walks out, which made me a bit sad because they had such great chemistry together. Will tells Professor Lambeau he would rather have appointments with Sean and no one else and burns the interview papers and walks out as he goes back to his own lifestyle, which makes sense as he doesn't want to be well known. He has just he was to just be good. Just to be fair. But this performance is good by Damon. Will gets an interview at the NSA as he monologues about why he doesn't want to work for the NSA and tells Sean about it. And he monologues very well as Will and Sean have a conversation about honor, and Sean asks what does Will want to do with his life as he kicks Will out, and he calls Skylar before she leaves for California as she tells Will she loves him, and he says take care as she boards on a plane to San Francisco. While Will is working at a construction site, and while at a lunch break, Chucky tells him Will could to go anywhere but staying in Boston and make a name to himself anywhere else, while Sean tells Professor Lambeau Will pushes people away and to tell Professor Lambeau to shove his education up his ass. When Will overhears the conversation and enters the room, as Professor Lambeau leaves and learns about Will's past, and his foster father beats the shit out of him, and Sean tells Will it's not his fault repeatedly, as Will cries about it. And they hug it out, and which was a very touching scene, as it touched me. Will goes to a job interview, and we learn he got the job as the new one, and tells the old one he's thinking about quitting as Sean frees Will from therapy as Will is cleaned as the next day is Will's 21st birthday and celebrates it with Chucky, Morgan, and Billy getting him a car as Sean is taking some time off by going to Baltimore as he's going to a bar with Professor Lambeau and to get a drink as Will drives by Sean's place to deliver a letter that says he can't take the job because he wants to go to California with Skylar. And Chucky comes by his house as he doesn't come out anymore, is on the way to San Francisco, California, and the movie is very well made and has with a great heart. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 8.9 out of 10. The writing in this movie is absolutely excellent by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, and the acting by them is very well done, but the best thing about the movie, in my opinion, is Robin Williams as he plays the best character in the movie, and no wonder he got that Oscar winning. The movie works magnificently as the relationship of every single character is heartwarming, as I really like these characters and I love watching them on screen. The movie is well shot, well made, with a very great heart, as it's well written again by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, as this movie is a delight. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with The Last Duel. And until then, an afternoon delight.